everyone freaking loves tower defense games. Check this out. 700,000 ratings, 900,000 ratings, 7 million ratings. Well, everyone except Christopher over here, maybe. And Bloons Tower Defense is arguably one of the best ones on mobile. So take that, Battle Cats. The internet might love you furry fluff balls, but in my book, the monkeys win this time. Bloons is also truly the series of tower defense games that took the genre mainstream back in the Flash browser gaming days. And that's why it's the first of today's 10 great tower defense games on mobile, which includes both mainstream hits like this one and some hidden gems you might not have played yet. Also, I've even got some free keys to give out today for a new indie tower defense game, so stick around to hear more about that later on. Now, there are multiple Bloons games on mobile, and I think the best one of the bunch is the $4.99 premium game Bloons Tower Defense 6, which has a great sense of progression and several game modes such as co-op, in addition to just the offline playable single-player levels. Moving on, Infinitode 2 is a minimalistic tower defense game that you can literally keep playing forever while gradually researching new upgrades for our towers in between levels. And I mean, just look at this research tree, it's absolutely massive. Overall, the game is just incredibly well made, there are hundreds of hours of content, its gameplay is unique and really deep, and the relaxed monetization makes it one of the best free games in the genre on mobile. It also just happens to be my wife's personal favorite tower defense game, and it has a 96% positive rating over on MiniReview. Oh, and as a quick bonus game, if you enjoy this minimalistic style of tower defense games, you might also want to check out Data Defense, which I gotta admit, I haven't personally played this one, but it looks similar and it seems like a great game, honestly. Next up is a true classic called Mindustry, which honestly is unlike any other tower defense game on mobile. I can best describe this one as a tower defense sandbox game, because not only do we have to build towers to deal with enemies, but we also have to set up resource extraction systems so we can earn resources to build walls, turrets, and traps to protect our base. And as you get further into the game, you'll have entire industrial extraction systems set up, including drills, conveyor belts, and even mining plants. And the most interesting thing is that after finishing a level, we then get to keep any unused resources, which we then use to grow stronger in a massive tech tree. It's a super complex game, and it even features a level editor and online multiplayer in addition to the single-player campaign. It hardly gets any better than this, and it only costs a single US dollar on iOS, and it's completely free over on Android. Now, I know you guys love Plants vs. Zombies. I mean, just look at this poll from the community tab. But I'm gonna make an entire video dedicated to just these types of defend the castle style games where enemies rush toward you from one side of the screen, so we'll get to that later this year. What I have for you now, though, is potentially even better than that, because it's a game called Dungeon Warfare that you might not have tried yet, as it's one of today's debug cuts sitting at only 50,000 downloads. What's so great about this game is that despite a rather simple core gameplay loop, its level design is absolutely fantastic, which means it takes a lot of effort and creativity to beat each level. The game essentially has us select one of its over 100 available levels, pick a set of traps and towers to bring into battle, and then optionally select runes that modify the gameplay by making it harder, easier, or even endless. And then, of course, like in any great tower defense game, we simply have to survive by placing towers and setting up traps to stop the waves of enemies. There's a lot more to this game as well, such as a skill system and loot dropped by monsters that we can then equip on our towers, and it's all of this that makes it a worthwhile experience for any tower defense fan. Dungeon Warfare costs $4.99 US dollars on both Android and iOS, and it has no ads or additional in-app purchases. The newest game in this video is coming up very soon now, but first, there's no video about tower defense games on mobile without mentioning the highly influential and popular Kingdom Rush series. Because with 15% of all votes on my community poll about tower defense games last week, Kingdom Rush is a clear favorite by many of you guys, and for good reason, I might add. The first game in this series actually released as a free Flash browser game on Armor Games back in 2011, but there are now no less than 4 games available on mobile. The most popular of these is definitely the free first game, but it's closely followed by the $1.99 US dollar premium game Kingdom Rush Frontiers, which has received really high scores across both Android and iOS. Now, admittedly, the core gameplay in Kingdom Rush is very straightforward, with the biggest differentiator between this and all the other tower defense games being that we can spawn a main hero that we can move around the map as well. But the neat fantasy theme, the cute cartoony art style, and the highly polished gameplay and game design make this an easy recommendation for anyone who hasn't played it yet. And frankly, at this point, it's just one of those classic tower defense games on mobile. Releasing on both PC and mobile just about a year ago, Broken Universe is the newest game of the pack, and it actually manages to set itself apart through a few twists to the typical gameplay formula. It all starts with the option to select where we want our base to be placed in each level, and from there we then have the freedom to set up a maze of towers or just wall ourselves in and attack the enemies head on instead. And the design of these enemies is actually also really interesting in Broken Universe, with everything from self-destructing monsters to bosses with unique attack patterns that force us to think strategically about which towers to bring into battle. Now, unfortunately, the game is only available on Android and Steam right now, but I hope that an iOS release is in the works as well. Over on PC, it's an $8.99 premium game, whereas it's free on Android, monetizing through an energy system, incentivized ads, and a few in-app purchases. But the good news here is that the incentivized ads don't feel forced in this game, and although the energy system isn't very punishing, it can also be entirely removed through a $6.49 in-app purchase, so it's still an easy recommendation for anyone interested in a slightly different tower defense game. But now, it is giveaway time, because the awesome indie dev behind the tower defense game Anomaly Defenders gave me a bunch of keys to give out to you guys. I actually reviewed this game back in February here on YouTube, which some of you might remember, and although this is not a video sponsorship, so I'm not getting paid for any of this, I just thought you guys might really enjoy a giveaway. Now, the game is free to play, but these keys will remove all ads from the game, and they also provide some starting in-game currency, which is also easily grinded through gameplay. And all you have to do to enter is to leave a comment on this video with the word MAZE in it, M-A-Z-E, and I'll then check back in a few days to reply to the first 50 people who responded. So I hope you'll enjoy it, and good luck to everyone. And now, next up is Arknights, which mixes tower defense, combat, and strategy with team-based RPG elements to create a really unique gameplay experience that I enjoyed, honestly, a lot more than I thought I would. Part of what really differentiates Arknights is that each tower is represented as a hero that has unique stats, attack patterns, and that can be upgraded in various ways, which adds a really deep min-maxing element to the gameplay. The game is highly polished and has a distinct visual art style, but it also features a gacha unlocking system for acquiring new heroes and an energy system for the campaign missions. With that said though, the game is actually really generous with its monetization system, which creates a great free-to-play experience that I think is definitely worth checking out, even if you don't typically like gacha mechanics. Another well-designed tower defense game that definitely deserves a mention here is Anomaly Defenders, which has us play as an alien species defending their rocket launch pads from the humans attacking them. The game stands out by having a lot of towers to pick from and a bunch of unique enemies to deal with, which creates a deeply strategic gameplay experience where we're even encouraged to pause the game every once in a while to strategize our next move. It's also really nice that we can freely switch between the difficulty settings here, so we never get stuck on a level, and much like in Infinitode and Dungeon Warfare, we spend our time in between levels on upgrading towers, acquiring new ones, and even unlocking new abilities that, for example, allow us to freeze the enemies. Anomaly Defenders costs $4.99 on Android and $3.99 on iOS with no ads or additional in-app purchases. And as a quick bonus game, you might also want to check out Anomaly Warzone Earth, which is made by the same developer and takes place in the same universe as Anomaly Defenders. The next game is Radiant Defense, which is a very challenging 15-level tower defense game that I found really fun because it lets us place walls on the map so we can force the enemies down a specific path and get the most out of our towers, just like in those old Warcraft tower defense mods. With a few special buildings and just 9 towers that can be leveled up, the game feels like a very traditional tower defense game, but then just much more challenging. And best of all, the entire game takes up only 14 megabytes of space, which means it can run on any potato of a smartphone. Now, Radiant Defense is technically free to play, but it monetizes through 4 individual $1.99 in-app purchases that unlock new towers and buildings. And since these feel almost necessary to win the game, I would just consider it a premium $8 game, as that's how you get the most out of it. Now, if you think you've tried it all already, you know all the tower defense games out there, you're tired of them maybe even, in which case I don't know why you're still watching, but if that is you, you might want to check out Random Dice, because I don't think there's really anything out there like this game. Well, apart maybe from the many clones of the game, because it got really popular very quickly at some point. So in Random Dice, we first select a deck of 5 dice towers to take with us into either real-time PvP or co-op game modes. During combat, we then spend our starting mana and the mana we gain by killing creatures on tapping a button that places a random tower from our deck on the playing field. We can also upgrade our towers using the same mana, and when 2 towers of the same dice end up being placed next to each other, which happens randomly, mind you, we can even merge them to create a random upgrade tower. Now, at the same time, our opponent is doing the exact same thing, and every time we kill a creature on our playing field, it'll spawn as a monster on our opponent's side. And then we just keep going like that until one player has lost 3 lives by letting 3 enemies slip by our defenses. Random Dice is a free game that monetizes through in-app purchases that let you progress faster, so I don't recommend taking the game too seriously or expecting to beat the top players in the PvP mode. But as a casual game, there's just something strangely addictive about the core gameplay loop that makes it almost impossible for me to not included in this video. And if you like the idea of random dice, you might also want to check out 33rd Random Defense, which I actually think is even better than this because it also features a single player mode, but it is admittedly also a clone of the game. Let me know which tower defense game was your favorite in the comment section down below. Check out my games discovery platform MiniReview for lots more awesome mobile games, and until next time, just keep gaming, stay awesome, and I'll see you guys around.